Countertransference is a psychological phenomenon where a therapist projects their own emotions, thoughts, or experiences onto a client during therapy. It often occurs unconsciously and can influence the way a therapist perceives and interacts with the client. This projection can result from the therapist's own unresolved feelings or personal history being triggered by the client's behaviours, words, or circumstances. While countertransference can be problematic if left unchecked, it can also provide valuable insights into the therapeutic process when properly managed. The concept of countertransference originates from the work of Sigmund Freud, who initially viewed it as an obstacle in therapy. Freud believed that the therapist's personal emotions and reactions should not interfere with their objectivity. Over time, however, the understanding of countertransference has evolved significantly. Later psychoanalysts such as Carl Jung and Melanie Klein expanded the idea to recognize that countertransference could also serve as a tool for understanding the client's emotional world. In modern psychotherapy, countertransference is acknowledged as a natural part of the therapeutic relationship and is used to deepen the therapist's empathy and connection with the client, provided it is recognized and addressed appropriately. Now let's look at some examples. Imagine a therapist working with a client who reminds them of a close family member. If the therapist unconsciously begins treating the client as they would that family member, such as being overly protective or critical, this is countertransference. Another example could be a therapist feeling frustrated or angry with a client who exhibits behaviours similar to someone in the therapist's past who caused them emotional pain. In this case, the therapist's reaction is less about the client and more about their own unresolved feelings. A final example is when a therapist develops a strong emotional attachment to a client, such as feeling overly responsible for their success or failure in therapy, which can blur professional boundaries. Countertransference is not without its criticisms. One criticism is that it can cloud the therapist's judgment. If the therapist is unaware of their own emotional responses, they may misinterpret the client's needs or issues, leading to ineffective or even harmful interventions. For example, a therapist who feels overly sympathetic might avoid challenging the client when necessary, which can hinder progress. Another criticism is that countertransference can disrupt the professional boundaries between therapist and client. If the therapist becomes overly involved emotionally, it can compromise the therapeutic relationship. For instance, offering advice that aligns with the therapist's personal experiences rather than the client's unique situation can undermine the client's autonomy and growth. Finally, some critics argue that overemphasis on countertransference can shift the focus away from the client's needs. If therapists spend too much time analysing their own feelings and reactions, they risk neglecting the client's concerns. This is why ongoing supervision and self-reflection are critical to maintaining a balance and ensuring the client remains the central focus of therapy.